I'm joined by Yogendra Yadav, founder, Jai Kisan Andolan. I'm joined by Dharmendra Malik, National Media in Charge, Bharatiya Kisan Union. Supriya Shrinate, National Spokesperson, Congress. Shehzad Poonawala, National Spokesperson, BJP. I want to cut across to Yogendra Yadav first to get a larger understanding on what is the game plan, Mr. Yadav. You know, many people are now saying that you've shifted the goalpost. 2 days ago, the Prime Minister takes back the laws. He apologizes. Yet, you know, the scale of it, the massive scale of, this protest is continuing as we speak. You've shifted to Uttar Pradesh. There are protests raging on. You're going to be marching to the parliament on the 27th. Why shouldn't it be called political? Mr. Yadav, you're on mute. Would you unmute yourself, sir? Sir, we can't hear you. If you can hear me, you're on mute. All right, we're going to try and
Sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. We can hear you. We can hear you, Mr. Yadav.
I was saying that when I started debating in school, they told me that you can debate opinions, you cannot debate facts. Now, this is a factual question, and please get it right. You are a journalist. The demand for MSP has been on the table from day one in all the 11 rounds. Rakesh Tikait is absolutely right. In all the 11 rounds, we had placed the demand for MSP, not just formally, legally. When the government responded to us in writing, the government itself listed this as one of our demands. And in every political speech that I remember having made, any speech on the farmers' front, I have not heard one single speech which did not say, तीनों काले कानूनों को रद्द करो और इसके बदले MSP का कानून, guarantee का कानून लाओ. So let us not waste time on this esteemed panel debating whether this is a new thing, whether, shifting goalpost. What is shifting goalpost? Shifting goalpost happens when what you demanded has been realized, and then you suddenly come up with something afresh. This is factually false. Please don't spend too much time on it. The second question is about the issue of MSP and the focus of MSP. Please remember, the Prime Minister has made a declaration, which is a very significant declaration. We have welcomed it. We have only said that in addition to this, Mr. Prime Minister, we have always asked 3 other questions. We have always raised the question of MSP along with the relatively smaller questions of the electricity bill and the air pollution bill. Should we not remind the Prime Minister? If we raise 4 questions, as Rakesh Tikait reminded you, and someone says, okay, I meet your demand number 1, should we then clap and say, thank you very much, now we've forgotten our own demand number 2, 3, 4? Is that what you expect us to do? Should we not remind the Prime Minister?
Mr. Yadav, has the removal of the MOS home also been added to it?
Sorry?
Has the removal of the MS home also been added to it? Mr. Tenny?
Oh, yes, Mr. Tenny's thing. So we have raised 6 questions 6 points in the list yesterday. 3, as I've told you, have always been there from day one. And Preeti, anyone who knows one thing about movements, agitations, always knows that at the point of conclusion, issues that arise during the movement are always raised. So the issue of compensation for those who died, the issue of false cases against the farmers, and the issue of Mr. Tenny. Yes, all these 3 have come up, and yes, we have included that. That is inevitably the case. That's a standard template in any agitation. I'm surprised that this is being presented as something new.
It's not been presented, Mr. Yadav, but it's, one does definitely need to ask, because now you're saying you're going to stick there, you're going to dig in your heels. We're going to be waiting for what goes down on the 27th because you're going to give a formal statement on that. But the farmers
Can I say one thing?
Yes, please.
We have given a letter to the Prime Minister made a unilateral declaration. He holds 11 rounds of negotiations with us. 10 months he doesn't speak at all, and then he makes unilateral declaration. We simply write him a letter to say, please, these are other things you may have forgotten. We have not forgotten those things. And then we expect a reply. When we get a reply from the government, And if the reply is indeed very reasonable reply,
Okay.
if the Prime Minister, for example, says, yes, I remember in 2011, I had myself recommended legalization of MSP, well, then we would be very reasonable. So if we get a reasonable reply and still we say, no, we shall continue to agitate, then you can say what you are saying. Please wait for the government to reply. Why
I'm going to come back to you and I'm going to ask you, what if the government says, let's form a committee? Will that be okay? But I'm going to come right back to you. I want to go across to Shehzad Poonawala, who wants to make a point, spokesperson, Bharatiya Janata Party. Shehzad, it would seem like that you've landed yourself in this, in this quagmire of sorts. Because now what you've done is you've relented, you've given back, and you're saying you're going to repeal the 3 laws. But now you've invoked an age-old long demand of the MSP back, which no government, leave alone your government, even the Congress didn't want to honor, which is MSP.
So Preeti, first of all, I don't agree with your characterization. Apologizing doesn't always mean that you're wrong. Sometimes you apologize because you value the relationship more than proving you're right. And that's not me being Jai Shetty, it's just something that in a democracy should be the norm of how we actually converse and govern and talk
Shehzad,
to people.
Please tell me,
yes,
what
we did go back on those 3
characterization do you
farm
not...
laws. Now let me address...
I just want to clear this. What is the characterization that you don't agree with?
I'll tell you. The characterization that was made by Mr. Yadav, first of all, he said that, look, we have always demanded that MSP should be included in the demand that 3 farm laws plus MSP plus the other things, that all of them should be covered. Now, he said that give me one speech where we've made any of these demands other than the MSP. Here is a speech of Mr. Rakesh Tikait dated 14th of August. पहले कानून वापसी फिर होगी घर वापसी. No other demand. पहले कानून वापसी फिर होगी घर वापसी. 14th August 2021. So that day his benchmark was only the कानून वापसी. Today it's become about MSP, which I'm going to come to in 10 seconds, and also about 2 other issues which he's spoken about. One is the Lakhimpur issue. Now the Lakhimpur issue, Preeti, he has a certain point of view, and we were debating on facts. Facts can't be based on one's own perception. The fact is that Lakhimpur matter is before the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is ensuring that full justice will be done. I am sure Mr. Yadav, a very respected speaker, has full faith in the Supreme Court. Let's assume the UP police doesn't do its job. The Supreme Court is still overlooking it. But the UP police is taking action on whoever is responsible and is doing whatever needs to be done. That's a law and order issue. The second issue that Mr. Yadav was speaking about is about the memorial for the farmers. First of all, there are no figures. Somebody says 600, 700, 800. I am with you on that memorial for the farmers. Mr. Yadav, I just have one request. 141 farmers in Chhattisgarh died of suicides in the last 11 months. 2,000 plus farmers died of suicides in Maharashtra in the last 11 months. Congress's government is there. 3 lakh actually died in the 15 years of Congress NCP. And Adivasi farmers were shot dead in Chhattisgarh. Why not have a memorial for all these farmers? So I hope my dear friend from the Congress party will only not demand a memorial for these farmers, but for all the farmers that have died because of the bad policies and continuing bad policies of our government. Now let's come to the MSP point. Mr. Yadav is an erudite intellectual, and I want to ask him a few questions. Sir, the current MSP system that we are giving currently is decided by the CACP for 23 crops. Now these crops do not include fruits and vegetables. Today we have said, the Honorable Prime Minister has said, let us have a committee, a high-level committee with all stakeholders to decide an elaborate and an effective mechanism of MSP. Isn't this fair for the person who sells fruits and vegetables? Are you getting me a certificate or an affidavit from some fruit seller that he does not want MSP? Is the SKM saying that we don't want MSP for fruit sellers and vegetable sellers? Secondly, only 6% of farmers continue to benefit from the MSP system. What about the 94% farmers? Yogendra ji, shouldn't you and I be also worried about that? Let's have a conversation about that. Thirdly, sir, the current MSP that is given, let's assume that we go by the 23 crops also. You know that the disproportionate benefit of that MSP goes to 2 states. I don't want to name them. You know those 2 states, you've been working on the ground. Those 2 states hog or get 65% of their procurement done. I have no problem with that. But I come from Maharashtra. 1% of my wheat is being procured. My farmers' wheat is being procured. Madhya Pradesh, other states. What about their rights? Sir, I'm sure Mr. Yadav, an erudite farmer leader like you, would surely want their rights to be concerned, to be taken into consideration. And Congress party. Madam, I have a statement of Mr. Manmohan Singh. One last point. Mr. Manmohan Singh on 26 March 2014, Prime Minister MMS said that MSP leads to higher prices and inflation. And he said this after Raghuram Rajan advised him to say this on 26th of February 2014, that inflation is caused by higher MSP. This is a party that never implemented the Swaminathan Commission report for 6 years. Yet she will tell, Supriya ji will tell us about MSP. For Supriya ji, the MSP means maximum siyasat and politics. And if she is concerned about MSP, she should tell us why.
Mr. Poonawalla, I am going to go to Ms. Supriya ji, and I will ask her right after I ask you, because you've quoted facts, you've quoted many speeches, and let me quote a few others which will actually tell you why the stress deficit. Because you say you're okay to make, you're with making a memorial for the farmers that have died in this entire protest. But why would you want to make a make a memorial for farmers who Mr. Piyush Goyal called Maowadi, who Ms. Lekhi called Mawalis, who your Haryana Chief Minister called Khalistanis? I can also quote a lot of, there are a lot of quotations I can also go through.
May I respond to that quickly? May I respond to that quickly? Preeti, in none of those cases, and we can play out those entire statements in the context they were given, none of those statements, none of the leaders of the Bharatiya Janata Party, and certainly not responsible ministers who've dialogued 11 rounds with these farmer groups and farmer leaders, have called the farmer leaders. Yes, but in the name of the Kisan, जो राजनीतिक जमीन तराशने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं,
I have a quote from Mr. Tomar. Would you agree, Mr. Tomar?
नुकसान पहुंचाना चाहते हैं,
Would you agree, Mr. Tomar? Would you agree, Mr. Tomar?
But we have never called out any farmer. In fact,
भीड़ इकट्ठा करने से किसान नहीं हो जाते, चेंज नहीं हो जाता. This is by the agriculture minister, right? He was in conversation with the farmers. So I just wanted to give you were quoting facts. I just wanted to, I'll come back to you. I will come back to you. He was quoting facts. I just wanted to give you. Yes.
ये प्रीति जी, हाँ मैं आपको बताता हूँ. मुझे 10 सेकंड दे दीजिए, 5 सेकंड दे दीजिए. प्रीति जी, जब कुछ यहाँ पे पार्टियां ऐसी है जो रॉबर्ट वाड्रा को स्मॉल फार्मर मानती है, अब क्या हम स्मॉल फार्मर की परिभाषा उनसे समझेंगे? हमारे लिए स्मॉल फार्मर वो है जिनकी जमीनों का साइज बहुत छोटा है, जिनको हमने 11 करोड़ किसानों को हमने 1,30,000
whether these are Robert Vadra's farmers or their farmers or their Khalistanis or their Maowadis or Mawalis. We'll come back to that. But I want to
No, I'm not talking about those farmers. I'm talking about Congress's definition of farmers.
So you are telling me the whole bheed, the entire bheed that Mr. Tomar was talking. Okay, sir, can I bring in Supriya Shrinate? Please, let me bring in Supriya Shrinate.
That is not what he said.
I have multiple. Sir, let's not embarrass, because it can get embarrassing. Because there's a whole roll call of each of your ministers who, called, a lot of adjectives were used. Let's not get in there.
You should play out the entire statement in the context it is given. I'll happily answer that.
Let's not get in there. Okay. Supriya Shrinate, the fact is the Congress politicizing the entire issue? Because
it's your choice.
2 days, sir, can I? May I? Thank you. Supriya Shrinate, 2 days after the Prime Minister takes back the laws, you celebrate a Kisan Divas in Uttar Pradesh, which is going to polls. Are you piggybacking on the farmer protest? Is once again a question that is being asked of you.
Preeti, for 5 minutes, 16 seconds, we heard the BJP spokesperson. I can't figure out what was being tried to convey there. Are they apologizing? Are they sorry for what happened to farmers? Because I want to place facts here and I will answer your direct questions. 700 farmers have lost their lives during these protests that were largely happening because the central government refused to cede to the demand which Prime Minister Modi, because of the by-elections and of course the impending electoral losses, finally ceded to. 700 farmers have died. Forget about what their ministers called and later apologized for. The Prime Minister, while even taking back these laws, does not even spare a single thought, not one word acknowledging the supreme sacrifice of our farmers in a country jahan par nara hai Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan ka. I want to put it on record there. 700 kisanon ki shahadat hui hai, ek shraddhanjali ka shabd nahi bola gaya. I am going to answer your direct question by stating a very obvious fact. When you say farmers are politicizing, you asked Mr. Tikait a very valid question, which a lot of people are asking. Why are farmers making political statements? Why are political parties supporting them? Politics is about people's rights and championing them. And if a farmer is a voter in this country who cannot voice a public opinion or have a political opinion, I don't know what is the harm in that. And exactly true for political parties. Whose rights to be championed? There's rights of youngsters, the rights of farmers, the rights of women, the rights of the downtrodden, and we will champion those rights. If you call it politicization, so be it. I also want to put a very important fact here. Prime Minister Modi was a 3-term Chief Minister of Gujarat. And as the Gujarat Chief Minister, he was the chairman of a working group which in its written report had then recommended that MSP should be given a legal convention. It should be put on the statute. Why is the Prime Minister not listening to his own advice as Chief Minister is a question I will ask. And the last thing I want to say, Preeti, I belong to the state of Uttar Pradesh. I spend a considerable amount of time here. The outrage that people have on what happened in Lakhimpur, जहां पर गाजर मूली की तरह से किसानों को रौंदा गया, and the main named FIR person, Ashish Mishra's father, continues to serve as Minister of State for Home Affairs in this government, shares a dais with the Home Minister. He is still not being sacked. And it's a very valid question to ask.
Okay.
टेली जी को बर्खास्त, फैक्ट्स की बात कर रहे हैं आप, मॉरल कंपस नाम की, नैतिकता, मर्यादा नाम की कोई चीज होती है पब्लिक लाइफ में, या बेच खाया है?
All right, okay. I know Shehzad Poonawala wants to come in. I want to go full circle, but I want to ask you one quick comment. You know, you were quick to quote what the Prime Minister, or who was then the Gujarat Chief Minister, said about the MSP. You know, I wanted to quote it, but Shehzad has already done it on what your Prime Minister, which was our Prime Minister as well, Manmohan Singh, said about MSP. Now you have a tweet by Rahul Gandhi who says that MSP needs to be in word of law. This agitation should not end before that. When you and I both know better, you know, Mr. Nate, that if we actually go with what the farmers want, you're going towards bankruptcy.
No, we are not. I'll tell you why. You know, people take positions and then those positions change with time. Mr. Modi today is not espousing the position that he took in favor of MSP.
What about Mr. Manmohan Singh?
Dr. Manmohan Singh did say inflation because inflation was high at that time with a high... That's why I'm coming to that. I am not going to evade any of your questions unlike the others. I will answer your question directly. Dr. Manmohan Singh took a position because of high inflation then, but there were of course higher growth rates than presently. He took that position. Today the circumstances have changed. Today we saw how a government through the back door, through an ordinance, brought the 3 laws. And so the farmers are agitated. वो आशंकित है, वो भयभीत है, कल को क्या हो सकता है? You've got to ring fence the farmer because of what you have done. आपने उनके मन में भय बैठाया है. आज उनका विश्वास जीतना होगा. There are no two ways about it.
Can I come back to you?
I am not going anywhere. You can ask me whatever questions.
All right, I will. Mr. Poonawala, I haven't. Can I? Sir, no. I know you want 20 seconds, but may I please? Okay, may I just go across to Mr. Dharmendra Malik, National Media in charge of the Bharatiya Kisan Union. He hasn't, you know, been introduced in the panel. With both your permission, I know you want to get into a face-off.
Come back to me to respond to both of them.
Yes, I promise I will give you that time, and I will go back to Mr. Yogendra Yadav also because he also wanted to make a point.
1 versus 3 to be balanced. That's all.
Sir, it is as balanced. You know, 5 minutes is what she counted. I have given her 3 because now I've realized where BJP and Congress are there. It's best to keep a stopwatch.
Okay.
Yeah. So let me now, you know, go across to Dharmendra Malik.
But let me come back to both of them. Please go.
Yes, sir. I'm telling you, you will. Dharmendra Malik ji. मलिक साहब, अब चित और पट दोनों आपकी हो सकती है क्या? क्योंकि अभी
भाई चुप हो जा।
सर देखिए, थोड़ा ठीक से बात करिएगा. चलिए धर्मेंद्र मलिक साहब, क्या चित और पट दोनों आपकी हो सकती है? वही कहा जा रहा है. चलिए 3 लॉ थे, वापस ले लिए. अब मुझे बताइए, एमएसपी में क्या किसान खुश है अगर कमेटी बना दी, या लॉ की वेट करेंगे तब तक नहीं हिलेंगे?
देखिए प्रीति जी, मैं आपको एक बात बताऊं कि अभी जिक्र किया है कांग्रेस की प्रवक्ता ने भी, समिति तो किसी मुद्दे को शिफ्ट करना हो, कूड़े की रद्दी की टोकरी में फेंकना हो, तो वो एक समिति का काम होता है. इस देश में स्वामीनाथन आयोग की रिकमेंडेशन है, आज तक सदन के पटल पे चर्चा भी नहीं हुई. और समिति बनाने की आवश्यकता कहाँ है? 2011 में वर्किंग ग्रुप के चेयरमैन हुआ करते थे कंज्यूमर अफेयर के नरेंद्र मोदी जी, और उस समय उनका पद था गुजरात के मुख्यमंत्री, और आज हैं वो देश के प्रधानमंत्री. उन्होंने कहा था मनमोहन सिंह को पत्र लिख के कि आप ऐसी एमएसपी घोषित क्यों करते हो जो मिलती ही नहीं, एमएसपी को कानून बनाना चाहिए. तो मोदी जी की समिति की रिपोर्ट आ गई, और इससे बड़ी रिपोर्ट चाहिए? जिस अदालत में मोदी जी वकील थे, आज उस अदालत में मोदी जी जज हैं, तो उन्हें तो न फैसला सुनाने में देर लगानी चाहिए और ना एविडेंस की आवश्यकता है. 2-3 बात मैं और कहूंगा. 5 मिनट का भाषण सुना है शहजाद पूनेवाला गमले में सब्जी उगाने वाले लोग अगर कृषि का ज्ञान देंगे तो वो ठीक नहीं लगता। तुम्हारी सारी बातों का जवाब दूंगा। आपने कहा किसान न सम्मान निधि, ज्यादा पेट में दर्द हो रहा है, सम्मान निधि को बंद कर दो। हमें दान नहीं, फसलों का दाम चाहिए। एमएसपी की घोषणा करो, किसान सम्मान निधि वापस लो, दैट्स ऑल। दूसरी बात आपने कही, प्रियंका वाड्रा का जिक्र किया कि स्मॉल फार्मर है, आपने वो टैक्स को लेकर तंज कसा है। किसान की आमदनी इतनी करो कि वो टैक्स के दायरे में आ जाए। किसान टैक्स देने के लिए तैयार है और इनडायरेक्ट टैक्स हम लेते हैं। आपने कही डिमांड की बात, डिमांड हमारी पहले दिन से है, काले कानून वापिस हो, एमएसपी को कानून बनाया जाए, एयर पोल्यूशन बिल वापिस हो और बिजली अमेंडमेंट एक्ट में संशोधन किया जाए या उसका ड्राफ्ट वापिस लिया जाए। तो कोई नई बात नहीं है। आप जो कह रहे हो ना कि ये नई डिमांड और ये सब चीजें, घर एक साल में घर में जो बच्चा गर्मियों में कुछ मांगता है, नहीं सुनिए आप, गर्मियों में बच्चा कुछ और मांगता है, सर्दियों में कुछ और मांगता है, एक साल में बहुत बातें जुड़ जाती हैं। कपड़े भी 2 बार खरीदने पड़ते हैं, एक बार गर्म और एक बार ठंडे। ये सब मसले हमारे आंदोलन जो हुआ है उसको लेके हैं। अगर ये बिल ना आते तो मुकदमे ना होते, बिल ना आते तो किसान शहीद ना होते। आपने क्या काम किया, खरीदनी थी भैंस, भेज दिया झोटा। जब हमने कहा कि झोटे की जरूरत नहीं थी, भैंस चाहिए थी, तो उसमें आपने कहा ठीक है भैंस वापस कर दो, झोटा भेज देते हैं। तो इसमें कौन सी नई बात होगी भाई? हमें तो जो चाहिए था वो दे दो। हमें एमएसपी चाहिए था, हमें जो है काले कानून नहीं चाहिए थे। तो आप जो है शहजाद भाई, अगर आपको देश का कृषि मंत्री बना दिया जाए तो शायद आपके हिसाब से पूरा समाधान हो जाएगा। नरेंद्र मोदी को
Mr. Poonawalla, I promise I will give you time. I know you're up against 3. I know you're up against 3. I will give you time. I just want to go back to Yogendra Yadav once. He wanted to make a point, and I want to come back and hark back on reforms.
This is unfair, Preeti.
I promise you I will give you time.
There are a lot of points to cover.
I will come back to you. Do you believe me?
I am registering officially my disappointment that you're being unfair to me. But you have all the right to be unfair to me. Like Mr. Malik has the right to talk to me and tell me that I know nothing about agriculture. I give you all the right and I give your channel the right to be unfair to me.
Because you are officially registering your complaint, I am timing it.
I am officially giving you the right to be unfair to me.
I am timing you.
I am officially allowing you to be unfair to me. Mr. Malik, to taunt me and to everybody to accuse me. I'm giving you the right to do it. Please go ahead.
This is wasting time, but I have a stopwatch and I will tell you exactly how much you've spoken. Yogendra Yadav, I want to come back to you and I want to talk to you about MSP and I want to talk to you about reforms. And I want to quote Anil Ganawat, who's a member of the panel, who is a farm leader, and he says very clearly, implicitly, that if the demand to extend MSP to 23 crops is agreed upon, it will drive the country to bankruptcy. It's one of your own. Sir, you're on mute again. Okay, till the time Yogendra Yadav comes off mute, go ahead, Shehzad, make your point.
Karma has a funny way of doing things. Anyways, so there are 2-3 points that I want to address. Ms. Supriya Shirate said that with time you can evolve your positions. I accept that. It's a very honest admission. But Supriya ji, आप करे तो चमत्कार और कोई और राष्ट्र हित में करे, राजनीति में नहीं, राष्ट्र नीति के लिए करे, तो वो गुनेगार. Even if you say that you have changed your position, evolved your position, I would like you, because I respect you a lot, to tell me on record on India Today that the Congress manifesto of 2019, Madam, I did not interrupt. Preeti, let's not have this discussion.
Yes.
This is not fair. This is not fair. This is not fair.
Please, I'll
this
come
is
back
not
to you.
fair.
Make your point.
I heard everyone. I was ready to give my turn to Yogendra ji.
Make your point, Shehzad. Can I
I'm only
just
asking
get
for my
Shehzad
turn.
Poonawalla? Go ahead.
Yes. I can't make it if she screams in my ear. I can't make it if she screams in my ear. Let her please hear me. So I would like Ms. Supriya Shirate, in her turn, to then come out and tell on India Today, the most reputed watch channel today, that yes, we committed a brave, big blunder when in our 2019 manifesto we spoke not about just amending the APMC but doing away with it entirely. Because the BJP never proposed that. The BJP was still willing to give a choice to farmers. The Congress wanted it done completely.
Big lie.
They wanted Essential Commodities Act to be thrown away because they said, they called it the age of controls. Madam, I have the manifesto statements. I have the page number. I have the point number. Point 7, page 7, point 11 is the first point. Don't make me show you the proof. I can give you the statements of your own, which you made while you were working with NDTV. I can give you your statements of Kapil Sibal, Rahul Gandhi. Let's not go down that road. Mr. Malik पॉइंट पे
can we
आते हैं।
just go one by
मैं हाथ
one?
जोड़कर
Okay, one
आपको
second.
कहता
This is
हूं,
about the
मुझे
farmers.
शायद
Okay, Mr.
आपकी
Shunid, I
तरह
promise
किसानों
I'm
के
going to
बारे
come
में
back
नहीं
to you.
पता।
Let him make his point.
Let me
Let him
please
make his point.
complete. Let me
Yes.
please complete. Let me please complete.
Complete.
madam. Please let me complete. मलिक साहब हो सकता है कि मेरा दुर्भाग्य है कि मैं गांव में पैदा नहीं हुआ। आपकी बात सही है, मुझे ज्यादा नहीं पता किसानी के बारे में, पर मैं आपको ईमानदारी से आज पूछ रहा हूं, क्या आप दिल पर हाथ रख के बता सकते हैं कि मेरे किसान जो महाराष्ट्र में है, मेरे किसान, आपके किसान जो उत्तर प्रदेश में है, मध्य प्रदेश में, उनकी कितनी गेहूं प्रोक्योर होती है? अच्छा चलिए मुझे बताइए कि सब्जी जो बेचता है किसान, वो भी सब्जी बेचने वाला भी तो किसान है, उसको आज एमएसपी नहीं मिलती। 94% लोगों को एमएसपी नहीं मिलती, 23 क्रॉप्स पर एमएसपी मिलती है। क्या हम लोगों को इस पर एक कमेटी बनाकर, अगर हम लोग सारे स्टेक होल्डर्स के साथ इसको और प्रभावी बनाने की एक ईमानदार एक कोशिश करें? आप कहते हैं स्वामीनाथन रिपोर्ट, मुझे पता है 2008 से 14 तक नहीं लागू हुई और इसीलिए आप डिसअपॉइंटेड थे, फिर लागू हुई तब स्वामीनाथन जी ने प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी की तारीफ भी की, पर हो सकता है आपकी अपेक्षाएं बढ़ चुकी होंगी और वो अपेक्षाओं को पूरा करना सरकार का ही काम है। परंतु मैं आपसे हाथ जोड़कर पूछता हूं कि क्या आज आप और किसानों की जिंदगियों को एक तरीके से रिस्क पर डालना चाहते हैं? उनको खेतों में जाने दीजिए, उनको घर जाने दीजिए। ये जो बाकी की बातें हैं उसको सुलझा सकते हैं बातचीत से, समाधान की ओर चलिए, समस्या पर क्यों अटके हैं, कंसेंसस की ओर चलिए, कंसीलिएशन की ओर चलिए। क्या मिलेगा? ये कांग्रेस को फायदा होगा,
Okay, Shehzad, 3 minutes now. I'm going to come back. मलिक साहब, मैं आपके पास आ रही हूँ। 2 मिनट बस, एक सर 2 मिनट। I need to go back to Yogendra Yadav, but Supriya Shrinate, you wanted to come and quickly make your point.
Preeti,
कोई किसान हमने बंधक बना रखे
Can I
हैं
just
क्या?
get Supriya
और
Shrinate?
no, I'm sorry, Preeti, because I don't think any of us are here for monologues.
Okay, come in.
I don't think any of us here for monologues, and because monologue
I
can happen.
realize it,
I
there
just
is a
want to
reason
make a
I'm
very
sitting here
small
with a
point.
stopwatch. Go.
आप किसानों की आय दोगुनी करने वाले थे Feb 2022 तक. You know how much are farmers in this country earning on an average? 27 rupees per day. You know what is the average? हर किसान के ऊपर कितना लोन का बोझ है? The average loan on every farmer is 74,000 rupees. You know how much has the cost of agriculture gone up per hectare? 25,000 rupees per hectare by your government because of the prices of diesel, fertilizer, insecticide, GST on farm equipments. What are you going to do about all of that? You're not going to sit here and tell us monologues. Please stop that. Have a moral compass. Sack Ajay Mishra Teli, because without doing that, you have no moral authority whatsoever to speak on farms or farmers or farm laws. It's as simple as that. And the reality is, unfortunately today, the farmers in this country have zilch, zero faith in India's elected Prime Minister. That is where we've come. That is where we have come. I have answered all your questions. You answer mine now. Your silly questions don't need to be answered. This is not a
No, I'll
monologue.
come back to you. No, exactly. Okay, I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back to Yogendra Yadav. May I please go back to Yogendra Yadav? Okay, Yogendra Yadav, the question that I was asking you is on the MSP. I quoted Mr. Ganawat, who's one of your own, who was on the panel, who said if 23 crops are extended MSP, we are going to go bankrupt. What about reforms?
Preeti, I want to officially register my appreciation and gratitude to Shehzad Poonawalla for recognizing the facts that I wanted to say, that only 6% farmers actually benefit from the existing MSP regime, that much of that is focused only in 2 states, and for recognizing the fact that there is something very, very unfair about it. I completely agree. And that is precisely why we want a legal guarantee of MSP for every farmer, every state, every crop. I'm absolutely sure Mr. Poonawalla agrees with me. Number 2, on the fruits and vegetables. That's exactly what we are demanding. I'm so happy to hear these things from you, that we need to go beyond 23 crops. That's why we need to expand the MSP regime. What we are demanding is not merely that give me a piece of paper that says MSP is a legal guarantee. We are saying that ensuring that this guarantee is made good should be Government of India's job.
But Mr. Yogendra Yadav, point number 3, what about the likes of Anil Ganawat and a lot of others who stand by him? Yes.
I've heard you very carefully. So the idea that this would make Indian government go bankrupt is a complete lie. Yes, the government of India would go bankrupt if the government were to purchase all the crops of all the farmers and then go and dump it in Indian Ocean. That's not what we are asking. I can give you an exact figure. If the government of India were to pay the difference between market price and the MSP, it will be anything below 50,000 crores of rupees. 50,000 crore rupee is a lot of money, but that's actually about 40% of government of India's agriculture budget right now. So let us not get into these lies. And incidentally, Mr. Ganawat is not one of our own. Mr.
Okay, Mr. Yadav, is also about procuring excessive food grain because India is producing excessive food grain, and in that context, maybe you are right. They might have to dump the excess into the Indian Ocean. But
that would happen only if you follow the current regime.
May I just...
okay, I'm going to go. Okay, now, okay, express 30 seconds each. Malik Sahab, आपको आंसर करना था 20 सेकंड में जल्दी से बोल दीजिए. मलिक साहब. ओके, शहजाद पूनावाला वो है. अच्छा चलिए मलिक साहब बोलिए. मलिक साहब को बोलने दीजिए 20 सेकंड. बोलिए मलिक साहब.
क्वेश्चन सुनाई नहीं दिया, जरा बताओगे?
सर आप कह रहे थे ना आपको आंसर करना है शहजाद पूनावाला को, जल्दी 20 सेकंड में बोलिए.
नहीं, मैं बोलूं तो जब आप कुछ पूछो.
अच्छा चलिए, नहीं आपने हाथ उठाया था. चलिए शहजाद पूनावाला, यू वांटेड टू कम बैक.
जी, I want to take this opportunity to register my gratitude to Mr. Yogendra Yadav.
अभी रुक जाइए, मैं आती हूँ आपके पास. मलिक साहब मैं आती हूँ आपके पास. बोलिए शहजाद पूनावाला, go ahead, make your point.
Yeah, I want to personally express my gratitude to Mr. Yogendra Yadav because he has also taken up the cause of the Bajra farmers of Rajasthan. Incidentally, Bajra, which has a MSP of 2,150 odd per quintal, is being procured much below the price in Rajasthan. And Rajasthan government, when the farmers go to demand their rights, beats them up in Hanumangarh. And I'm happji that Yogendra Yadav ji has spoken about that. But Madam Supriya called my questions silly. She chose not to answer them. I can understand her discomfiture. I just want Ms. Supriya, who's been a great economist because she used to run a economic channel as well. Madam, can you tell us the Congress's official position on whether you think you should be giving MSP on crops other than 23 crops for fruits and vegetables, and whether you are happy with the current system where the MSP is disproportionately going to 2 states or 3 states rather than coming across, because Yogendra Yadav ji and I are on the same page that all farmers should get a better remunerative price for their produce. I think the Congress party has some vested interest because of which it sees the current system to be more beneficial. So I want to understand that if this is your official position, will Rahul Gandhi come out and say
this? You have raised the question, let her answer it. Go ahead, Supriya, answer the question. Ms. Shrine.
Yeah.
120 seconds for one panelist and 20 for the other. That's unfair, but I will still answer the question. I strongly recommend that the Prime Minister should listen to his own self. His own report should be reread, in which he wanted legal right for the MSP. Forget about the opposition. Do what you wanted to do as the Gujarat Chief Minister. And बिल्कुल सही कहा उन्होंने, वो उस अदालत में वकील थे, अब जज है, उनको किसी साक्ष्य की जरूरत नहीं है. आपको डबल करनी थी इनकम, 27 रुपया कमा रहे हैं फार्मर्स. और सबसे पहले किसानों से हाथ जोड़ के 700 मौतों के लिए, शहादत के लिए माफी मांगिए. Sack Ajay Mishra Teni, because without that you have no moral compass whatsoever. And if you think
the
question was, does the Congress stand with MSP being raised beyond 23 crops
and withdraw these laws? You really think?
Look.
I answered. Mr. Modi should do what he suggested should have been done as the Gujarat Chief Minister, and that's precisely what he suggested. That's what my answer is. Yes. I am telling you, the Gujarat Chief Minister has suggested something. Let the Prime Minister do that. That's what I'm saying. And I'm presuming they're the two people, unless I only have one thing to say. Unless and until you do not sack Ajay Mishra Teni, you have no moral authority whatsoever to come and speak on agriculture or
Shehzad, you have 5 seconds.
Preeti, Exactly 5 seconds.
No, why should one
Preeti, we
person be
asked
given
for
time
some
again and
concrete
again,
answers
Preeti?
from the
What's the
Congress
Because I'll tell you why. I'll tell
she
you why,
diverted,
it was one
fumbled,
against at
she
least
got
three.
angry, she's questioning you, she's questioning me.
Go ahead. No,
One
I'll
second,
tell you why,
Preeti,
Mr. Renate. I'll tell you why.
Preeti,
And I
let
raised it right at the
Supriya,
beginning.
who's been a
There's
great anchor,
one
not
against
I
three.
never get
not
angry
derail
with
this
silly
debate.
questions. I never get angry with lies.
Okay, I need to now. Okay, I'm going terribly over. Okay, I'm just closing this. Appreciate all of you for joining us. Appreciate all of you for joining us. We thank our panelists. We're going to keep a keen eye on all developments. Are the farm unions right in extending their agitation, taking it to Uttar Pradesh, or is the trust deficit too wide right now to fill up with a mere promise of taking back the 3 farm laws? We leave it for our viewers to decide.